What if a quiet stretch of beach somewhere people go to relax, to escape, was actually hiding one of the most disturbing serial murders cases in modern history for years? And what's even harder to understand is the victims were there the whole time, but it still took over a decade to finally make an arrest. Hello, lovelies. How are we today? Welcome back if you've been here before. And if you're new, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I like to go over a little thing called true crime and some mystery, maybe a lot of it a mystery. If you're interested, please stay tuned. Let's do this. When people hear Gilgo Beach, they usually think of the mystery, the investigation, the suspects. But before any of that, this is about people. Women who had lives, families, and stories that mattered, long before they were ever called a victim. Back in 2010, police were searching for a missing woman named Shannon Gilbert. She had been working as an escort and disappeared after a frantic 911 call where she said someone was trying to get her or chasing after her. That search led officers down Ocean Parkway, and what they found changed everything. Human remains, and then more, and then more, until it became clear this wasn't one case. This was a pattern. The woman we need to remember, actually, these women we really do need to remember. The first 4 women found close together became known as the Gilgo Four, but they were more than that. Melissa Barthelemy was 24 years old. She was close with her family, especially her younger sister. When she went missing, her family knew something was wrong right away. Later, her sister would receive cruel and disturbing phone calls believed to be from the killer, something no one should ever have to experience. Megan Waterman was just 22. She was a mother. She had a young daughter who would grow up without her. Megan was trying to make money and trying to survive, like so many people do, but that doesn't define her whole life. Amber Lynn Costello was 27. Friends described her as funny, warm, and someone who could make people laugh. She struggled, yes, but she was also someone people cared deeply about. Maureen Brainard-Barnes was 25. She was a mother of 2. She had children waiting for her to come home. Her absence left a space that could never really be filled. And as investigators kept searching, more names became part of this story. Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, Sandra Costello. Each one was a person. Each one who could still be here. Part that's hard to ignore: for years, the case didn't move forward. No arrests, no clear answers. And the one thing a lot of people have pointed out is this: many of these women were involved in sex work. Because of that, their cases didn't always get the urgency or attention they deserved early on. That reality is uncomfortable, but it matters because every life should be taken seriously every time. The break in the case: years later, investigators went back through everything with new technology. The old phone records, burner phones, cell tower data, DNA evidence, and slowly a name started to come up again and again: Rex Heuermann. On the surface, he seemed like an ordinary person, an architect, and a neighbor, someone living a normal suburban life. But investigators say the deeper they looked, the more things lined up: his phone activity, witnesses' descriptions, and eventually DNA connections. In July 2023, he was arrested. All right, so this part of the story is where things start to feel a little bit unsettling. I mean, it's all unsettling. Because once investigators zeroed in on Rex Heuermann, it didn't stop at the arrest. That's when they started digging into every part of his life. Not just where he lived, but everywhere he had access to. They spent days searching his home in Massapequa Park, going through decades of belongings, papers, digital devices. His house, that place is basically wrecked. Like, not just messy, but police tore it apart looking for evidence, floors ripped up, walls opened, backyard dug into. It's not even close to normal anymore. And what makes it worse is what they're saying happened there. Investigators believe some of the murders actually happened inside the house, especially down in the basement. People keep calling it a kill room, which is, yeah, as bad as it sounds. Did his family really never run into anything that he was doing? His family came back after the search and said everything inside was destroyed. On top of that, they're kind of stuck with it because who really wants to buy a house tied to something like that? Neighbors don't even want it there anymore. Some have straight up said it should just be torn down. At this point, it's less of a home and more like this creepy landmark everyone associates with this case. So yeah, it's not just an old house. It's damaged, stigmatized, and tied to some really disturbing stuff, which is why people keep talking about it. And what investigators say they found started to paint a very different picture than the life he appeared to be living on the outside. What investigators uncovered, according to prosecutors, they found evidence of extensive online searches tied to violent content and the victims. And I'm not going to really put that in there just because it's very graphic. There's signs of planning, like this wasn't random, but something thought through over time. That's called premeditation. There's burner phone activities, and it matched the timelines of when victims disappeared. I also heard that they seen his truck description at one of the girls' houses. I don't know if that's true. DNA evidence helped connect him directly to multiple victims. There were also reports that some of this material was organized and stored, which suggests a pattern, not chaos. And I heard he's supposed to be a control freak. Then the investigators expanded, and this is where it gets even deeper, because investigators didn't just stop at his home. Apparently, he traveled a lot. They started looking at anywhere he had access to. That included other properties, storage units, work-related locations, and places connected to his travel history. The reason is simple but heavy. They needed to know if there were more victims or more evidence that hadn't been found yet. One of those places that came up was Las Vegas. Investigators confirmed that he owned a timeshare there and had traveled to the area over the years. Now, to be clear, just owning a property somewhere doesn't mean a crime happened there. But in this case, the case like this, every location matters. So authorities started looking into it. They reviewed travel records, phone data from those time periods, and looked at whether there were any missing person cases or patterns that could overlap. But because there's not proof of something there, they couldn't afford to miss out on this, even though there's no proof of it. What we know so far, as of now, investigators have not publicly confirmed any victims connected to Las Vegas. But the fact that they're even looking tells you how seriously they're taking this. Because when a case stretches across years and possibly locations, you have to ask a bigger question. Is everything, is that everything? Why this part matters. When you hear about searches and properties, it can sound like just another step in an investigation, but this is where they start trying to understand the full picture. how long this may have gone on, whether the known victims are only part of the story, and whether they are still answers out there that haven't been found yet. And that's the part that stays with people, and it stays with me about this story, because even with everything we know now, there's still that question lingering in the background. What else might be hidden? What this story really is, it's easy to focus on the suspects. But the truth is, this story belongs to the women who lost their lives and to the families who spent years waiting, hoping, and pushing for answers. For a long time, their voices weren't heard the way they should have been. Now they are. This case just took a huge turn. Rex Heuermann, the former architect tied to Gilgo Beach serial killings, has officially pleaded guilty. Yeah, guilty. On April 8th, 2026, he admitted to murdering 7 women and even confessed to an 8th. Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amber Lynn Costello, and Maureen Brainard-Barnes, plus Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, and Sandra Costello. And then there's Karen Vergata. He admitted to killing her too, but won't face a separate charge for that. For that part, he won't face it because he took a deal. Now, here's why this matters so much. This case went unsolved for years, over a decade of questions, fear, and no real answers. And just like that, no trial. The one that was supposed to happen in September, gone. Because with a guilty plea, there's no courtroom battle, no jury, no drawn-out process. It jumps straight to sentencing, which is set for June 17th, 2026. And he's expected to get multiple life sentences without parole, meaning he's never getting out. The part of the deal also includes him working with the FBI Behavioral Analyst Unit, basically helping them understand how and why he committed these crimes. So yeah, this is closure in one sense, but it also means we may never hear every detail publicly, because trials are where all of that usually comes out. Bottom line, after years of mystery, the case finally has answers. Just not all of them, which may be good for families to move on finally. But what if there's more out there? And in my opinion, I think there is. And that series that people keep bringing up, it's not a reality show like some people think. It's actually a true crime documentary called The Gilgo Beach Killer, House of Secrets. The family is in it, but it's more like sit-down interviews, them explaining what life was like in that house, what they know, what they knew, and how they're dealing with everything now. But here's where it gets complicated. Some people are like, okay, they have the right to tell their story. And then there's others like, this feels off. Like it's too soon. And money's involved in it too. So it leaves people in this weird space. You're watching because you want to understand. But at the same time, it feels uncomfortable. And honestly, that tension kind of carries into everything else about this case. Because this wasn't just a mystery on the side of the road. It was people. And it always should be taken, and it always should have been treated that way. It just makes you think about the people caught in the middle of all of this. Because no matter what side you're on, there's a lot of damage that doesn't just go away. If you're still here, give me a like, give me maybe a subscribe, maybe comment what you think about this. I know this is a big case going on right now. This is one of the first cases that I really did research. I've always researched true crime and, mystery stuff. Always enjoyed researching it, learning about it, and this was one of the bigger ones that I started to research a couple years ago and kind of got me into making videos. But let me know how you think about this, how you feel about it. I'm glad you're still here. I hope that you stay tuned, continue to watch, and as always, watch your back and don't talk to strangers.